What's the first thing you think about when you hear the word Europe? The European Union, European integration. I suspect you'd have people say bureaucracy, the common agricultural policy, straight bananas, this or that directive, immigration, freedom of movement, the euro. That's the kind of response I'd guess we would receive if we asked members of the public what was the first thing that occurred to them when thinking about Europe. And the point I really want to make this evening is, I don't think Europe and what European integration represents is any of those things. It isn't a policy, it isn't an institution, it isn't a process, it isn't a law or a directive or an organisation or any of those things. No, for me, for us, I suspect, Europe is actually an idea. And it's this idea I just want to spend a few minutes talking about. Because it is an idea, in my view, which is obviously in great peril. But it's very, very precious. It's an extraordinary idea. It's a wonderful idea. It's an astonishing idea when you think about the history of our continent. And it was an idea which crystallised and came to life in the wake of two of the most bloody, violent conflicts that the world has ever seen, which engulfed our continent in a few short decades in the last century. And in the wake of the ruins and the rubble and the violence and the bloodshed and the heartache and the death and the misery and the need to bring our continent back on our feet, this idea suddenly came to life. And it's a simple idea. And the idea is this, that in our crowded, cluttered patchwork of a continent with all of the countries and communities, large and small, jostling side by side with different histories, different languages, different outlooks, we learned the hard way that it is always better to work hand in glove with your neighbours and your friends on the things that we face together and can't possibly deal with on our own. It is always better to do that rather than turn inwards to the false promise of chauvinism and nationalism. And that is an idea we must defend. But if that idea and its extraordinary birth out of tragedy and bloodshed was extraordinary enough, what is even more extraordinary is that it is an idea which is rooted in our history, which flowed from our history in the last century, but actually provides us with a roadmap for this century. Because European integration is what helps keep us safe from global recession. It helps keep us safe from climate change. It helps keep us safe from cross-border crime. It helps keep us safe from the threat and the menace of states and stateless groups who wish to do us ill. So it is not an idea which is consigned or should be consigned to history. It is a living, breathing idea which we must defend and promote against all the forces which are now ranged against it. And that is our task. I don't want us in any way to belittle how serious the threat is that is now trying to extinguish that extraordinary, simple, but painstakingly assembled idea. Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Nigel Farage, Marine Le Pen, Geert Wilders, the leaders in Poland and Hungary, the Daily Mail, all the rest of them. They're all different, Some are more odious than others. But they're all united by one thing. They hate, they loathe, they abhor, and they want to destroy and unpick the very basis upon which international stability and the very basis upon which our international order has been built since the Second World War. They are now forming an alliance of chauvinism. And that is the reason why they condemn judges who are just doing their job as enemies of the people. That is why they dismiss any international organisation as a corrupt bureaucracy. That is why they kneecap any politician, any voice that stands in their way. That is why they claim that uniquely they know what the people think. Because they have to delegitimise anyone and anything which stands in their way. Anyone and anything which stands in the way of their vision of a world in which might is right, in which the affairs and the global affairs of our world are no longer ordered by the rule of law, or by multilateral institutions, or by supranational constraints on national action, but are instead dominated by strong-arm nationalism in which people throw their weight around without the slightest regard for the weak. That is why they behave in the way that they do. And that is why we need to be very clear-eyed about what we're up against. Because we are up against very powerful vested interests, a new Brexit elite that now dominates the vested interests of this country, married to an arc of nationalism, to an arc of chauvinism, which stretches from the Kremlin in Russia right to the new incumbent in the White House. That is what we are up against. And we are alone in this country in that great battle. Because the Conservatives have now become utterly indistinguishable from UKIP, and Labour have simply gone missing in action. Friends, we might be on the wrong side of Brexit tabloid opinion. We might be on the wrong side of these powerful vested interests who are now pushing our country to an ever more inward-looking and divided future. We might be up against all of those interests, but we have history on our side, because I cannot think of a single challenge that my children and your children and our grandchildren generations will face, whether it's climate change, or the ebb and flow of economic globalization, or the rise of the East, or cross-border crime and extremism. None of these things can be dealt with other than through greater rather than less cooperation between ourselves and our European friends. As we follow Tim Farron, who is magnificently leading our party as the only party leader, brave enough, clear enough, consistent enough to stand up for the values of liberalism, generosity, openness, to treating the world as a world in which we should care one to the other, where we should walk hand in hand with our European partners. We should remember this: the populists have not won. They haven't delivered a knockout blow. Donald Trump lost by 3 million votes. The Conservatives only won barely a quarter of the eligible vote at the last general election. Geert Wilders did not win this week. And the 16.1 million people who voted for a different, a better future last June That is more people than have ever voted for a winning party in a British general election. So we are not alone. And above all, remember this, that young people voted in huge numbers for a different and better and European future, rather than the one which is now being imposed on them by this sour, divisive, arrogant government we have in power at the moment in Westminster. 75% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted for a different future. They voted with us. So we now have a duty to help them. If the Conservatives won't help them, if Labour won't help them, if these vested interests are trying to propel us towards a self-harming, damaging, divisive, hard Brexit, they won't get any help from them either. We are the only party in British politics now capable to fight and fight and fight again under Tim's magnificent leadership to deliver the future that those young people want, to deliver Britain that is tolerant, that is open and that is united. That is the future they want. That is the future they deserve, and that is the future that we must campaign together to give to them. Thank you very much.